At just 23 years old, Valeria Márquez had carved out a digital empire from the comfort of a modest beauty salon in Zapopan, Jalisco. With nearly 200,000 followers across TikTok and Instagram, she wasn't just another influencer blending into the saturated world of online beauty gurus. She was a voice that resonated, especially with young women navigating beauty, identity, and confidence in a society where those things were constantly challenged. Her tutorials weren't just about eyeliner wings or foundation hacks. They came with heart, with stories, with laughter and vulnerability. Her viewers felt connected to her, not just because of her skill with a makeup brush, but because of her authenticity. Her comment section was often flooded with messages like, "You helped me feel beautiful today," or "You remind me I'm worth something." She was more than just a face behind a screen. She was a source of hope. But as her popularity grew, so did a certain darkness she couldn't quite name. It began subtly. First, it was the odd direct message from strangers, men who flirted a little too aggressively or who spoke as if they knew her personally. Then came the unmarked gifts sent to the salon, perfumes, flowers, a pair of earrings once. Some were accompanied by handwritten notes that were disturbing in their familiarity, as if the sender had been watching her, reading between the lines of every video and live stream. Valeria would laugh it off during conversations with friends, but even they noticed a change. She had become more guarded, more alert. She'd stop mid-conversation to glance at the door, and she had started double-checking that it was locked, even during working hours. Her best friend and co-worker, Luna, had tried asking if everything was okay, but Valeria brushed it off, blaming stress or just the internet weirdos. Still, there were signs that something deeper was brewing. Her posts began to carry undertones of fear, masked as poetic reflection. "The price of light is that you attract the darkness," she wrote in one Instagram caption, paired with a selfie that to many looked tired behind the makeup. "Success brings shadows," she typed another day with a sad-eyed emoji. Though her fans flooded her with supportive comments, none of them could see the full picture, and Valeria never said exactly what was bothering her. Maybe she didn't know how to. Maybe she feared what would happen if she named it. People who knew her described her as fiercely ambitious but also private. She didn't talk much about her past or about romantic relationships, though there were rumors of an ex-boyfriend who hadn't taken their breakup well. Still, there was no public drama, no visible signs of a threat. Yet in private, Valeria had begun asking her brother to walk her home from work when he was available. She had started, leaving the salon earlier. She even spoke to the building manager about installing a camera outside the front entrance. On the morning of her last live stream, she showed up to work early and unusually quiet. Luna said she had barely touched her coffee, and she seemed to be checking her phone nervously every few minutes. Something was wrong, but no one knew just how wrong until it was far too late. The sun had just begun to dip below the skyline when Valeria began her TikTok live stream that Tuesday evening, propping her phone against a small mirror near her workstation. The salon was nearly empty, except for her and Luna, who had stepped into the back room to prepare some new product displays. Valeria's live streams had become a comforting ritual for her fans. There was something calming about watching her talk about her favorite makeup products, joke with followers in the comments, and occasionally share snippets of her life. But today, her energy was different. The brightness in her tone felt strained, her laughter brief and uncertain. Still, she pressed on, giving a short review of a new lipstick shade while absent-mindedly clutching a small stuffed toy, one her younger cousin had gifted her a week earlier. It wasn't her usual prop, but she seemed to hold it for comfort. Throughout the live stream, she glanced at the door repeatedly, as though expecting someone to walk in. At one point, she went silent for several seconds, her eyes fixed on something, off-screen. Then, she leaned closer to the camera and whispered, "They're coming." Her viewers, caught between confusion and intrigue, began commenting rapidly. Some thought it was part of a joke or a skit. Others immediately sensed something wasn't right. Before anyone could ask further, a voice in the background cut through the quiet. "Hey, Vale?" She stiffened. "Yes," she responded, her voice tight. In the next instant, she reached forward and muted the audio on the stream. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between concern and resignation. Viewers watching live said her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the camera. And then, nothing. For several seconds, the stream remained silent, her face just barely visible in the frame. Then, in a flurry of chaos, a loud bang erupted, muffled but unmistakable. The phone shook, fell to the floor, and caught only partial glimpses of what followed. One blurred leg, a scream, and the flash of a figure stepping forward. The screen showed a hand reaching toward the phone. For a brief second, a face hovered above it, partially obscured but captured nonetheless. The eyes were unreadable, the expression flat. The live stream ended abruptly. What was supposed to be a routine interaction with her followers had transformed into a horrifying crime witnessed in real time by hundreds of fans. Many immediately took to social media, asking if it was staged, or if someone had hacked her account. Others began calling local authorities and messaging her friends. Within minutes, clips from the live were reposted across TikTok and Twitter, going viral with captions like, "Did we just witness a murder live?" and "Who killed Valeria Márquez?" Outside the salon, chaos ensued as neighbors, alerted by the sound of gunshots, began gathering around the building. Luna was the first to find her. The scream she let out would later haunt everyone who heard it. Valeria lay motionless, her body limp beside her overturned makeup kit, blood staining the tiles that once shimmered under ring lights and laughter. The beauty salon, once a sanctuary of self-expression, had become a crime scene. The aftermath of Valeria Márquez's death sent shockwaves not only through her tight-knit community in Zapopan, but across the entire country. By the next morning, news outlets had picked up the story, flashing headlines like "Influencer Shot Dead During TikTok Live" and "Beauty Guru's Last Moments Streamed to Thousands." Clips from the live stream had already gone viral, dissected frame by internet sleuths, influencers, and true crime fanatics trying to identify the man whose face briefly appeared before the stream ended. The blurry image was circulated across forums and shared thousands of times, but no one could yet place a name to the haunting face. Meanwhile, candles and flowers began piling up in front of the beauty salon, where heartbroken followers, friends, and even strangers came to pay tribute. Authorities moved swiftly to seal off the salon and collect forensic evidence, but the pressure was mounting. Social media was aflame with demands for justice, with hashtags like #Justice for Valeria and Ni Una Menos trending nationally. Feminist activists seized on the tragedy, staging impromptu marches across major cities in Mexico, pointing to Valeria's death as yet another stark example of the epidemic of femicide that plagued the country. Her case wasn't just another statistic. It had unfolded live, in full view of the public, making it impossible to ignore. Still, the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office released only limited details, confirming that the crime was being investigated as a possible femicide, but offering no concrete leads or suspects. Inside the Márquez household, grief took on a suffocating intensity. Valeria's mother, Carolina, had collapsed upon hearing the news, clutching her daughter's childhood photo in one hand while screaming her name in disbelief. Her father, Diego, stood frozen in the hallway for hours, unable to process the loss. Valeria's younger brother, Mateo, who had only recently walked her home after late shifts, blamed himself for not being there. Friends and family members cycled in and out of the house, bringing food, prayers, and aching silence. No one knew what to say. How do you comfort a family whose daughter's murder was broadcast to the world? Luna, Valeria's best friend and co-worker, sat with investigators for hours, recounting everything she could remember. She described Valeria's growing unease over the past few weeks, the strange gifts left at the salon, and the moment Valeria told her about an expensive gift someone had tried to deliver when she wasn't there. Luna admitted she hadn't, pressed Valeria for more details, something she now regretted deeply. When asked if Valeria had any enemies or exes who might be responsible, Luna hesitated. There was someone, a man named Esteban, who had dated Valeria briefly the year before. The relationship had ended badly, and he hadn't taken it well. but that was months ago, and Valeria had never mentioned him again. Still, the mention of Esteban was enough for police to start digging. They pulled his name, tracked his last known address, and began reviewing surveillance footage from the area. But time was slipping by, and the public wanted answers. Who had walked into that salon and killed a young woman in cold blood? And why? Each hour without an arrest only deepened the dread that Valeria's case might end up like so many others, unsolved, forgotten, another candle in the wind. Days passed, and the pain of Valeria's death had not dulled. It had only grown sharper, deeper, as silence and uncertainty swallowed any hope of closure. The Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office remained tight-lipped about progress in the investigation, frustrating both the public and Valeria's grieving family. Rumors filled the vacuum left by official silence. Speculation ran wild online. Some claimed it was a cartel hit. Others pointed to jealousy from a rival influencer. And more sinister theories swirled about her having been stalked by a secret admirer who finally acted out his obsession. But to those closest to her, the truth felt far simpler and more terrifying. Valeria had been targeted for being young, beautiful, outspoken, and visible in a country where that combination could be deadly. Authorities finally revealed that the face briefly visible in the live stream had been digitally enhanced from screen captures by experts. Though the quality was poor, it provided enough for facial recognition technology to flag a possible match: Esteban Rios. The name wasn't new to investigators. Luna had already mentioned him, but until now, he had been considered only a faint possibility. Esteban had no prior violent criminal record, but he had a history of controlling behavior. He and Valeria had dated for 6 months, during which friends noted her gradually losing her independence, missing social events, growing, more anxious, and slowly retreating from her once vibrant online presence. When she ended the relationship, Esteban reportedly became erratic, sending long, obsessive messages and appearing unannounced outside her work. After the breakup, Valeria had confided to Luna that Esteban gave her a bad feeling, but she hadn't wanted to press charges or escalate things. "I'll be fine," she'd said. "He'll get over it." But it appeared he never had. Once Esteban's name surfaced as a suspect, police visited his last known address, only to find the apartment recently abandoned. Neighbors said he'd left in the middle of the night, packing a few bags into a car, and driving off without explanation. That same day, a security camera from a local convenience store just a few blocks from the salon caught him on footage a week before the shooting. He was standing in line buying a single rose and watching a video on his phone, Valeria's livestream from earlier that day. When authorities searched his apartment, they found chilling evidence: a small notebook filled with disturbing entries, pages filled with Valeria's name, photographs printed from her social media accounts, and even screenshots from her live videos annotated with dates and obsessive notes. The final page read, "If I can't have her, no one will." Despite this, Esteban remained on the run, and his disappearance set off a manhunt across Jalisco and surrounding regions. As the manhunt intensified, so did fear. If someone could murder a woman in broad daylight during a live stream with no immediate consequences, what protection did any woman really have? For Valeria's family, each passing day without justice felt like another betrayal. Her mother could no longer bring herself to watch the videos or look at the outpouring of tributes online. She wanted answers. She wanted accountability. And above all, she wanted the man who destroyed her daughter's future to be brought in, alive or not. The search for Esteban Rios stretched into its second week, drawing in federal investigators as national pressure mounted. Posters bearing his face were plastered across Zapopan and neighboring towns, his image circulating on television broadcasts and across social media feeds, always accompanied by a single word: peligroso, dangerous. The once obscure ex-boyfriend of a beloved influencer had become Mexico's most wanted man. Tips began pouring in, some credible, others driven by fear or attention-seeking. He was spotted at a roadside taco stand in Guadalajara. Someone swore they saw him boarding a northbound bus to Monterrey, A woman claimed he was hiding in the hills near Lake Chapala, moving only at night, yet every lead led to a dead end. The country held its breath, and then, abruptly, the silence cracked. It was a patrol unit in a rural area outside Tepatitlan de Morelos that made the discovery. The officers were conducting a routine sweep of an abandoned farmhouse when they noticed signs of recent activity: fresh footprints, an extinguished fire, a plastic bag with half-eaten food. They called in backup and waited. Hours later, in the pitch dark of early morning, a figure tried to slip past the property's edge, cloaked in shadows. The moment the flashlight beams hit his face, there was no mistaking him. Esteban Rios was finally in custody. News of the arrest swept through the nation like wildfire. Crowds gathered outside the local police station as he was transferred to a high-security facility in Guadalajara. Reporters shouted questions, cameras clicked furiously, but Esteban said nothing. He didn't resist. He didn't cry. He simply stared forward with a blank, detached expression that chilled everyone in the room. Inside the interrogation chamber, he finally spoke, but his words were more haunting than clarifying. "I loved her," he said. "She left me no choice." His confession was rambling, erratic, peppered with moments of lucidity and madness. He described the day of the murder as if it were a tragic love story, how he had watched her live streams every day, believing she was sending him signals, how the gift he'd sent to the salon was a final gesture to win her back. When she rejected him, he claimed, something in him snapped. The trial that followed became one of the most closely watched legal proceedings in recent memory. Valeria's mother took the stand, her voice trembling as she spoke about her daughters, dreams, her kindness, her growing fear in the days before her death. Luna testified too, tearfully recounting the warning signs and how none of them thought it would come to this. Esteban's defense attempted an insanity plea, citing obsessive delusions and mental instability, but the prosecution pushed back hard. This wasn't madness, they argued. It was premeditated, deliberate, and monstrous. After weeks of testimony and media scrutiny, the verdict was delivered. Esteban Rios was found guilty of femicide and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted in emotion. For Valeria's family, it was a bitter victory. Justice, yes, but at a price no one should have to pay. Outside the courthouse, a mural of Valeria's face, painted by a local artist, stood tall against the wall. Below it, someone had scrawled a message in bold pink letters: "Nunca más será silenciada." She will never be silenced again.